Good evening to all of those that are in attendance for our third annual International Women's Day event here at Wellesley College. We also want to wish a very warm welcome to those joining us virtually from around the U.S. and the world. So good morning, afternoon, and evening to you as well. We had over 160 RSVPs, both in person and virtually. And so it looks like a lot of people are tuning in virtually tonight, but we're very happy to see those of you that were able to make it for the in-person event. My name is Tana Rugemer, and I'm the director of the Slater International Center and advisor to international students and scholars here. Now, I want to begin by sharing a little bit about the International Women's Day mission with all of us tonight. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women and marks a call to action for accelerating equality. The first International Women's Day gathering was in 1911 and was supported by over 1 million people. Today, IWD belongs to all groups, collectively, everywhere. It's not country, group, or organization specific. Slater joins in the national and global International Women's Day campaign. This, of course, is not our campaign alone. And we acknowledge that women and those identifying as women are to be celebrated and have their voices elevated every day, not just today. Now, back in early March 2020, International Women's Day that year was the final in-person event that Slater hosted for the year 2020 due to COVID, and the last such in-person event for many months to come. So we are very happy that this March we're able to offer this in-person event again, while acknowledging just how much the world has changed since 2020. And of course, the world continues to change. Tonight, you'll see flameless candles lit here on the podium, acknowledging ongoing crises and wars around the world. We invite you to find the candles on your tables. And for those virtually, if you have a candle nearby, we ask you to light them. And you can do so by just flipping them over and flipping the switch. Or you might have a little piece of paper you need to pull out. And we want them to be lighted in acknowledgement of friends, families, loved ones, current students, alumni in all nations experiencing or affected by war, crisis, and chaos. We hold them all close to our hearts today and every day. And when we light these candles together, let us reflect on the National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman's words, and I quote her words here. "Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even if we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried." International Women's Day was officially celebrated on March 8th. The theme is Celebrate Women's Achievement, Raise Awareness Against Bias, Take Action for Equality, #BreakTheBias. And Wellesley students have done just that, from joining the National Break the Bias campaign to nominating and highlighting international change makers in the world, which you see on either side of me. Wellesley students work tirelessly to break the bias every day. So feel free to take time to view the students' nominations of change makers in the world that they want to highlight for this event. These nominations, of course, are located to my right and left. Tonight, we are also delighted to honor one of those change makers, our guest speaker, Pashtana Durrani. For those of you not yet acquainted with her, we are so looking forward to invite each of you to make her acquaintance tonight. But before we invite her to the stage, in an effort to keep all of us on the same page moving forward, we'd like to review the agenda for the evening, as we have many moving pieces. After Pashtana speaks, we're going to offer a Q&A both in person and virtually. So for in-person attendees, if you have questions for her, you can simply raise your hand, and we will bring the mic to you. If virtual attendees have questions, you can submit those via chat, and we'll answer as many questions as time allows. Following that, Marce will introduce the Break the Bias campaign and our student speakers. We will end the virtual component at that moment and continue with an in-person component led by Pashtana. And finally, we'll wrap up the evening and invite everyone to the cow-chair room right across the hall to have a meet and greet with Pashtana. Upon exiting, we do have dessert, so make sure you grab one before you leave. You're also welcome to the coffee and tea station over here, so just make sure if you're not actively drinking to put your mask back up. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Pashtana to all of you tonight. Pashtana is a visiting fellow at the Wellesley Centers for Women. She is an Afghan human rights activist and community development expert whose focus is girls' education. During her time at WCW, she is continuing her research to help Afghan women and girls pursue education and support the health of Afghan mothers and babies. She's the founder of Learn Afghanistan, a grassroots organization established to safely and securely provide education to girls through a distributed network of tablet computers using an offline platform. Through Learn, she has developed models of education, healthcare, and menstrual hygiene management. Learn has educated 7,000 girls and boys in Kandahar, Afghanistan, trained more than 80 teachers in digital literacy, and trained 700 girls in menstrual hygiene maintenance. Durrani was named an education champion by the Malala Fund for her outstanding work to advance Afghan girls' education. She was a global youth representative for Amnesty International and served on a climate change committee of the United Nations Development Program. She's also a winner for the 2021 Talberg SNF Eliasson Emerging Leader Prize, which recognizes leaders who have addressed complex global challenges in innovative ways. Pashtana was among the BBC's and Time's 100 Influential Women's list of 2021. So let's give her a warm welcome and invite her to the stage tonight.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah, I am. Thank you, Tana, for that. I didn't realize I was so cool until now. Also, I joke a lot when I'm nervous, so please bear with me. Today is celebration of women, but there's also a celebration of the warrior in us. So this speech is dedicated to every woman before us, right now, and after us, who has fought her way through every bias that has come across her. I normally am not good at giving keynote speeches because I bash the interviewers on TV when they ask me weird questions. But I'm here. As I stand in front of you to make this speech, I can't help but think about the girls who haven't been in schools for the past 6 months in Afghanistan. I can't help but think about the activists who are now unable to leave Afghanistan because they are missing in Afghanistan. I can't help but think about all the women all across the world who didn't wage the war, who didn't start the war, but are first victim of this war. For 1 year now, I can't help but think, why is it that always war is the first thing that finds us, or maybe the Afghan women in us? I can't help but think how even though wars are never waged by women and never started by women, but are always the first victim and the last victim in every war. Even though today there are forces out there that are scared of loud, opinionated, and educated young women, I call on everyone in here and ask them to dare. Dare to dream, dare to educate, dare to question, and dare to be the brave one among us. When I was young and very shy, I used to be very shy, trust me, I was very shy. So when I was young, I remember my father making me sit on the men's table at the house and make me eat with the men in our house. So in our home, first it's the men who eat and then it's the women who eat. So my father made me sit at the table and I was a very shy kid, so I didn't talk for many days, and while my cousins did scream at everyone and my uncles did have a lot of opinions about everything, one day I remember my father telling me, I gave you that seat on that table, but it's totally up to you to talk and to make your own point. And trust me, I made my points. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I made sure all my cousins knew how much opinionated I was, how much I hated their stupid sarcasm, excuse my language, but also their opinions about how women should cover, which school women should go to, what they should cook, how they should behave, and where they should be. Since then, I have screamed. I have screamed at the top of my lungs. From going to boarding school, because that was my opinion and option and my own decision. 2, starting digital literacy, because I thought that is the solution for Afghanistan. I have screamed in conference halls, I have screamed at ministries, I have screamed at government officials, I have screamed at Taliban, and I have screamed in my own family, but I continue to scream. Now, at the same time, I don't ask you to scream, because maybe screaming is not for everyone. Maybe your form of resistance is different. For every young girl out there, you don't have to scream like me, but you certainly need to believe in yourself like me. You certainly need to believe in your ideas like me. I started Learn with 5 tablets. Trust me, nobody except my father believed in me, and only 700 students for the first year. Many told me, you cannot do it, this is not possible, there are big players in this game, this is a huge aid industry, this is not how it is done. And I showed them how it's done. We ended with 7,000 students, we had 18 schools and 5 rural schools. Today, the same big players come to me and tell us how it's done. So believe in yourself. Last but not the least, I would like to tell you, be your own tribe, build your own tribe. Believe in yourself, be passionate about something that would take you out of your bed on Monday morning. Be passionate about something that makes you happy about Monday. Trust me, that helps a lot. Even if it's not the cool thing, trust me, it's your thing and you'll make it happen for yourself. So believe in it. Now Lee will play a video of the stuff that we do, and it will show you how me believing in myself and my family believing in me led to all the amazing stuff that we do.
As majority of pregnant women in Afghanistan live a very poor life and cannot afford proper care for themselves and their babies, Learn launched a healthcare program in October 2021. In this program, our doctors take good care of these patients. They check the pregnant women and their babies thoroughly, perform necessary examinations on them, give them better prescriptions, and guide their pregnancies to a healthy way. In our healthcare program, Learn covers all of the expenses of these patients starting from their fees. Different doctors have different fees. Some patients can afford it, but many cannot. Learn covers the necessary examinations such as the ultrasound, lab exams, cultures, and more. Medicine is a big deal here. The total medicines cost much more than the fees and exams combined, and Learn offers to pay for the medicines. The newborn babies that are suffering from malnutrition are taken good care of. We provide necessary food that provide the utmost nutrition to these babies. Women who are uneducated are given important information about their pregnancy. They are given tips on how to control everything, how to give birth to healthy babies, and more. Since October, Learn has covered the expenses for more than 150 patients. Patients present with different physiological and pathological diseases. Some of the examples are here: preeclampsia, folic acid deficiency, preterm contractions, previous spontaneous abortions, breech position of the baby, severe hemorrhage or blood loss, and more. Pregnant women in Afghanistan require unique and great care. Since they are poor, many of them end up having a miscarriage or they end up having a baby which is abnormal and that causes death to both the mother and the baby. We at Learn seek to look after them. Our doctors offer them the necessary visits a pregnant mother should take. As it is said, saving one life is like saving the humanity, and we at Learn seek to save as many lives as possible.
چې موږ ته د لپټاپونه برابر کړي ځکه موږ عملي کارونه وکړو او نور هم په دغه مسلک کې کار وکړو او پرمختګ ورکړو د مسلک ته او بله زه غواړم په راتلونکي کې بزنس وومن سم او نړۍ ته مې دا پیغام دی چې د نجونو د زده کړې مخنیوی ونه کړي او نجونو ته د زده کړې زمینه برابره کړي او هغوی ته د خنډونه نه رامنځته کړي ځکه همدا نجونې دي چې راتلونکي کې دغه نړۍ ته خدمت کوي.
And that is us, and we keep on growing. We are launching 5 new schools next week in Faryab, Bamiyan, Mazar, and Takhar, and we'll continue to grow. And thank you, Wellesley, for giving me the home, making me able to continue my work from safety.
Hello. Thank you, Pashtana, for sharing your message with us again tonight. What we'd like to do is open this up now for some questions from either in the audience or from those who are virtual. And we have Marce and Jen looking for virtual questions. And if anyone has a question live in person, just go ahead and raise your hand and we'll be sure to get a mic to you. I have one question to start us off, actually. Oh, was there a question? Yes.
Thanks, Tana, and Pashtana, thank you. And thank you so much for sharing this really very powerful story, and we could not be more honored to have you with us at Wellesley. How did you get started? Because I think sometimes it's your organization has grown and it's powerful.
Yeah.
But you started somewhere.
Yeah.
Share that with us, if you would.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I was the sort of kid who wanted to be a posh diplomat because it was so much in back then. I had no idea I would be in the NGO world and I'll be screaming at everyone. But I remember going from Pakistan to Afghanistan for the first time. Of course, I was educated. Of course, I had more access to education, laptop, internet. I registered for this MUN conference and I was supposed to meet Hamid Karzai, the ex-president of Afghanistan. And as I cross the border, I go to my cousin's house, and I spend the day there, and I keep on preparing for my concept note and everything. And my cousin keeps on looking at me, and she goes back and forth. Second day she comes, and she tells me, she's like, "Can I be you?" And that was the first time it struck me. I was like, why does she want to be me? I'm nobody. But she was insistent, and I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, we don't have a school in this whole district, and there were already IDPs from Maruf to Spinboldak, another border district. I was like, we don't have a school here, and she's like, no, we don't have a school there. Of course, I was uninformed, so I had no idea that my own family, my own cousins didn't have a school in Spinboldak. And that's the day I was like, I promise you, I'm going to make sure that you get into a school. So I get on my high horse. I started with one tablet. I contacted EDX, Coursera, any place I could find to get her the help she needed. But of course, in the end, I found a lot of help on YouTube. I uploaded it all to this one tablet, and I give it to her. We educate her throughout the year. We go back and forth on phone, on radio shows, on everything that we could find that educates her visually, audio-wise, reading, writing, and she's good. She's good. I still have her paragraph up on my Instagram where she has written and asked the government to make a school. After 1 year, I asked her brother to send her to Kandahar city, and she's sent to the city. And we enroll her in the best school in Kandahar, and after a week, she calls me, she's like, I don't understand anything. They can't help me. And I go and talk to the teachers, and teachers like, we can't teach a student who has never been in school, who doesn't know the pressure of examination or doesn't know the time limit of examination. Now, this kid is self-taught. He doesn't know, or she doesn't know all the stuff. And I go around all the city and keep on looking for this one thing. But it's the same thing for everyone. Nobody has the capacity to teach a kid from rural area with this capacity. And that's where I realized, I was like, okay, if we can teach her and make her come to class 9 without being able to enroll in her whole life in a school, we can do more. And that's where I registered, learned. Of course, my father loaned me the money. He supported me a lot. I took a gap year. My mom did beat the hell out of me. But at the end of the day, I did what I wanted to do. And Durdana is now on her way to become a midwife. Of course, college permitting, once her college it is open now, but hopefully she'll graduate soon. So, yeah. That's where it got me started. And that's what keeps me going. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I want to learn more about your work here at Wellesley. Just interested in next steps and what you're doing right now.
Sure, thank you. That is a nice question. By the way, Wellesley has been very nice to me. I do all the stuff that I want to do. They don't give me a lot of strings attached, but I work at the Women's Center, and I am right now focusing a lot of my energy on research in girls' education in conflict, but at the same time I continue to grow, learn, which is we launch schools, we launch mobile units, and all that flexibility happens because I am at Wellesley and I can do it through my work here at Wellesley. So I do continue my research as a researcher at Wellesley, but I continue to grow the organization, the schools, the mobile units, and all this assistance that you just saw. It happened once I was here. So we continue to grow in both ways, yeah.
Like everybody said before us, thank you for being with us today. You're such an inspiration. How do you keep yourself motivated despite all the setbacks that you've had in Afghanistan and in your own personal life? What keeps you going?
Honestly, Netflix. On a serious note, I do make sure that I do meet people a lot. So the work that we do, it's dehumanized when you get onto that leadership position. Any person who is right now thinking of building an organization, I am giving you a tip: build your relationships with your own organization. Build your relationship with the person who's going to get that support. Build your relationship with the person who's giving that support. Trust me, there are times where my teachers call me in the middle of the night because they miss home. Because one of our teachers has been relocated to France. There are students who call me, and even right now when I was coming here, they emailed me. They're like, we need NFT art. We need to learn that. That's a big thing, new big thing. We need to be invested in it. So just help us, I was like, okay, I'm going to get back to you once I get back from the conference. So you have to be it has to be humanized. You have to know the other person across the oceans, continents, or that screen. You have to know that there is a person that you're impacting, that there is a human life involved, and that keeps me motivated. There are times, trust me, where I have cried myself to sleep. I'm no superhuman. I'm just a human. I take long walks. I watch a lot of Netflix, but at the same time, I do make sure that I humanize my interaction, I humanize my work, because numbers on screen, they might look good to investors. I'm not an investor. We work together. We are building a community, a nation, an army of educated women. And for that, you need to know your comrades. So I do that, yeah. I'm also using a lot of war language, so excuse me for that.
So we do have a question for virtual participants. The first question is, What do you think is the most significant barrier for female leaders?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. What do you think is the most significant barriers for female leaders?
I think there is a glass ceiling that we tend to forget that there is. Honestly, I have seen it again and again, and I don't know how to put it in nice words, so I'm just gonna say it. Men, when they do stuff, everyone's like, oh my God, look at him, he's a father and a CEO. Oh my God, good for him. Mother, a woman could be a mother and a CEO. Oh yeah, but that's her job. So that's one of those barriers that we are not appreciated for being the person that we are supposed to be, and we continue to do that. The second thing is gender pay gap. I didn't know that this is a big thing in the US, but did you guys see the bot on Twitter who is calling out all those people and the median pay range? I think that's something that we need to talk about, you know. That's a big thing. Why are women compensated for the same time while men are not? Women are not compensated, but men are, while they don't even do the same job and they're celebrated for being a father, you know? So these are the sort of things that we need to understand. But also at the same time, a lot of racism towards women, subtle racism, a lot of sexism towards women, a lot of ageism towards women, that's all true. I was super young, I was 19, I was told again and again, you're just 19, you don't know anything. I have seen older women, they're told, you're very old, you don't understand anything. Most of the time, what happened in Afghanistan, they didn't even want local women like us because we were too local for them. Our accents were not nice, we didn't have double passports, you know, we didn't party like them. So for women, barriers are all across, starting from home, the way you dress, starting from your own family, the way they see you, the way they pursue you. But once you're a leader, you're your own chosen leader. You are your own army and you lead your own self, you know. So barriers are a lot, I do understand that. But the one thing that I have seen all across the whole world is sexism. There's always subtle sexism. In here, in the US, and in Afghanistan, everywhere. There is sort of sexism in every conversation that takes place with me.
Thank you again for being here with us tonight. I had a question in regards to, after the events that took place in Afghanistan this past summer, I want to know, obviously the events that took place had a lot of setbacks for women's rights and women's education, and how LEARN is currently overcoming those setbacks, or how they have overcome those setbacks, and whether there are conflicts when it comes to facing those situations.
So one thing we all need to acknowledge is the fact that Afghan women had the right to vote even before the women in the US had the right to vote. We had women minister for education 100 years ago, 102 years ago actually, and her name was Queen Soraya. And she started the school in Afghanistan. She started sending women to Turkey and every other place, and she made sure that there are departments that educate women. So post that, when you look at 80s, that's where it gets weird, that's where it gets conflicted, that's where women's rights are dictated through another lens. And apart from this educational background, now that US has withdrawn, one thing that we continue to see is the public spaces shrinking for women, just like they shrinked in the 80s, in the 90s, in the late 90s. One thing apart from that we also don't acknowledge, or most of the Western world doesn't even know about, is the fact that in the 90s, there were schools that were run, underground secret schools. I'm sure someone who was in the 90s would know that they used to run those schools. I'm no superwoman. I'm just doing what they did, but I'm doing it in a different way because I'm young. And as I was showing off my remarkable to President Johnson, we just have more tools now. So now we have more tools. I don't think the next generation will forgive us knowing that we had all these tools and we still didn't try for them. We didn't stand up for them. Because in the 90s, women had nothing. They couldn't even go into Afghanistan. There was no electricity, no resources, no pay, no salary. Right now, we have a lot of things that are available to us. So I do take and use a lot of digital media, literacy, and digital device and tools. And I'll continue doing that. It's fun, it's also pressurizing, but it's a ride or die together scene, so yeah, we do it together, yeah.
We do have another questions. The first one is, how do you mobilize and motivate your team on the ground in such a war-inflicting zone?
This is one thing that I'm going to be honest with you. We do dream of an Afghanistan where there won't be any Taliban in power. I dream myself of an Afghanistan, returning back to an Afghanistan where I will be part of an Afghanistan where there won't be any Taliban or any extremist or warlord in power who actually dictates rights to women. I want to return back to an Afghanistan that is actually made inclusive by women of Afghanistan, but also want to make sure that I work for that Afghanistan. I just can't wait for it. So for that, all my team, all of us, we continue to work together. We continue to work in secret. Of course, there are times where we do lose motivations. I don't want to lie about that. Oh no, we are all the time, all that ready. No, but there are always, we have people to fall back on. And at the same time, every time, so when I started my first school post August 15, I kept on thinking this one thing. I was like, am I crazy to think that this is going to work? And then on the morning, I remember around 70 girls showing up to that class. And I thought to myself, okay, no, I'm not alone. There are these people who really want to study. And that's what keeps us motivated. The teachers are always motivated by the students. At the same time, the doctor is always motivated by the mothers that they meet. The humanitarians are always motivated by the fact all the help and praise that they get for when talking to people. And at the same time, the communities that are protecting their own daughters, which is amazing. They're standing up to the Taliban for their own schools, which is big thing, big for us. So yeah, that all keeps us motivated.
Thank you, like everyone said, for being with us today. This is really incredible. As we all know, sexism is systemic, but I think for a lot of women and girls, the battle begins at home when you're dealing with family who doesn't believe in you at all. So how do you convince a family that, I guess, is facing these dangerous circumstances that they should educate their daughters and send them to school?
That is a very nice question, and that is the first question I get, not the sexism part, of course, because they don't think there is sexism, but of course, why a girl should be in school in the first place in a country like Afghanistan. I'm going to give you a small backstory from my own childhood. I think I was 6, and my father was not home, and my uncle, who was visiting from Canada, screamed at me, and I was so young, and as I said, I was very shy. And he screamed at me, he's like, "Don't you have any shame that you go to a co-ed school?" And I kept on looking at him, I was like, what is he even saying? Co-ed school, what does he mean? Because for us, what? It's just a kid in my class. And he kept on screaming at me, and he's like, take a decision. You're going to go to the same school like other girls in our house, because we had a school in our own house for girls, and it was refugee camp. And I'm stunned there, and he leaves, and my aunt comes. And she tells me, she's like, next time when he screams at you, scream back and tell him that, there was a lot of screaming, by the way, in my family, I just realized. A lot of screaming, you know? And she was like, scream back and tell him that, stop picking up fights with a kid. If you're a man, go talk to my father. The next day he comes and he screams at me, and I look at him, I'm like, why don't you just go and talk to my father? He can answer you perfectly. Why are you talking to a kid anyways? That was my first time actually replying to someone in authority. And if you are in an Asian household, especially in Afghan, you don't do that. You never do that. But we did it anyways. Now, when I started to learn, of course, digital literacy, digital solutions, big things, I went to a Taliban-controlled area, and the first thing I remember in Daman, the village elder comes to me, he's like, and he cooked such a good meal for us, and he's like, you know, I respect you. I totally agree with you that education is important, but look at our house, look at our village. We don't have running water, we don't have electricity. Why should I educate my daughter? What is she gonna do? There is no use for digital literacy. And I was stunned. The first thing I replied to him was like, when God sent verses, he said, pray, men and women. He didn't say that only men should pray. He said women should pray, because you have to give them religious responses. And he's like, okay. I was like, so when he asks you to pray, he's not biased about it. Why are you biased about educating your son and not your daughter? He understood, he was okay with it. But one thing I have realized over the course of years, you can't be philosophical when it comes to education, especially in a poor nation like Afghanistan. You have to insensitivize the educational policies, and that's what we did. I hate the fact that people give out flour packages or packets of oil. That's handouts. You don't do that. That's not the right way. What we do is actually tell the father, you send your daughter to school, we're going to cover her transportation cost, we're going to cover her digital literacy cost. In return, in 4 months, 5 months, she's going to earn her own money. That's important. That's where it gets important. Because one thing I keep on saying again and again, if you want to take a decision in a house in Afghanistan like a man, you have to earn like a man. And that's what we do with our girls. We teach them freelancing classes. They start developing graphics designing. They start developing website. They start developing animation. You can find a lot of animated series on our Instagram handle and Twitter handle. And they are paid for that. $200 is a big thing in Afghanistan. They can run their own household. When you put that money on table, you're not wed off. When you put that money on table, you're given the right to go to school, you're given the right to mobilize, socialize. And last but not the least, you're given the right to be protected by your father and anyone in the community, because that's some serious money that you're bringing home. And it's long-term, it's sustainable. It's not a project that will end. So I am not a philosopher. I used to be all religious and everything on old people and tell them that. No. You tell them, right, this is what they earn, you have to let them go. And everyone needs money to survive, especially in Afghanistan right now. So I do that, yeah.
Thank you so much. We have more questions coming for you.
Yeah.
The first one is, long term, do you see Learn Afghanistan growing and potentially spreading to other countries?
So right now our goal is to actually, by the end of this year, we grow at least 16, we start at least 16 schools in Afghanistan, and by the end of next year, at least 34, cover all the remaining provinces, which will be 34 schools. Post that, we really want to expand to conflict zones. Now, I do understand the difference between other countries who might need it, but I want to focus on conflict zones because in conflict, women are the first one to be sold off for more money. That's where we need to focus all our energy on. So probably I'm going to be focusing on Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Kurdish regions, and also if the funding parties allow, everywhere that our woman needs that, a girl needs that, yeah. Thank you.
We have so many more questions, just not quite enough time. But we're going to invite you back to the stage very soon. Thank you again for sharing everything. I would like to invite Marseille to the stage. She is going to be introducing our social media campaign and the Women in the World nominations, along with some student speakers tonight.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcela Silvera Tafur. I usually go by Marce, and I'm the Co-Visibility Coordinator's leader. I just want to introduce first a social media campaign for International Women's Day. As Tana has said, and also as Pashtana has pointed out, today we're celebrating International Women's Day, and especially in social media, we are doing something else. The International Women's Day's 2022 campaign looks forward to a world free of bias, discrimination, and gender stereotypes. We are looking forward to a more diverse and inclusive world where we can support women's equality. We strike the pose of this, crossing our arms, in order to show our solidarity towards breaking the bias and challenges the bias as well. And while we're doing this, we celebrate every women's achievement around the world. The next one, please. As well, yes, we have so many participants that that participate in the Break the Bias Challenge as part of Slater Ebor, and also our cultural organizations as well here at Wellesley. Yep. And in this case, as you may have seen in the writing to your left, we also have the nominations for International Women's Day. Something important I just want to remind is that all of these nominations were nominated by every student here at Wellesley and also faculty. So in this case, I'm going to first talk about my first nomination, which is Maria Elena Muyano. In this case, she's an Afro-Peruvian community organizer and who was assassinated by the Shining Paths, which is Sendero Luminoso. Something that I wanted to bring out here to the attention is that she was working towards the community all the time. She was a leader in her community in Villa El Salvador. She was working towards educational projects and even Vaso de Leche. Vaso de Leche is a project where every single day they will try to give a glass of milk to every student or every children in the schools, in which I was also part of. And I just want to remind her as someone who has worked towards people and has worked towards her community all the time. It's something that I also want to do for myself. I want to work towards a community that has helped me through growth and also has even brought me here because they have supported me all the time. So at some point I want to become a woman where I can be proud of and also my community can feel proud of as well. I also would like to invite other students. First, I would like to invite Manasvi.
Hi everyone, happy International Women's Day. Pashtana, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to share this space with you again, and you inspired me so much the first time I met you during Albright, and you continue to do that for me, and I'm so grateful. Today, I would like to share my nomination of Dr. Gumaraju with all of you, because Dr. Trinitra taught me to not accept one label for my identity. She taught me how to explore different options for who I can be, continue learning, and continue telling people not to tell me who I need to be. And Pashtana, I think you're doing the same. So I think it fits really well. I also want to highlight how Dr. Trinitra continues to break the definition of being a woman, the same work that we at Wellesley do every single day, what it means to have one identity, what it means to have all these identities together. Today, I would like to share with you something Dr. Trinitra wrote in response to all the hateful comments she received on International Women's Day, telling her she is not a woman. She said, "To bodies that bear no passage to life, but birth themselves, come, sit, drink your chai. Space is held for you here. Your sisters see you." I think I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manasvi. We're going to invite our next speaker, who's Arsi.
Hello everyone, my name is Arzi. I am an international student from Ukraine, and today I want to talk about Zarema Barayeva. She's a manager of the Crimean Tatar Resource Center, which is an NGO that raises awareness about discrimination of Crimean Tatar people in Crimean Peninsula, which was annexed by Russia in 2014. You might wonder who Crimean Tatar people are. Well, lucky you, I am part of this community, and I'm happy to educate you about this minority group. We are Muslim indigenous people of Crimea, and due to the advantageous location and the rich natural resources, our land has always been of high interest to our neighbors. The Russian Empire made multiple attempts to annex our land and do what we now refer to as ethnic cleansing. For example, in 1944, my grandma, among other 200,000 Crimean Tatars, became a victim of the deportation conducted by the Soviet government and was exiled to Central Asia with no right to return to her home. This happened overnight, no warning. This crime is officially recognized as a genocide of the Crimean Tatar people. When the Soviet Union fell, my parents were able to return to Crimea, which then was under the control of newly independent Ukraine. It was probably the merriest time for my people, we were allowed to have our representative body and community leaders of the Crimean Tatar community participated in policy making, and we could publicly celebrate our heritage. Personally, I went to elementary school with Crimean Tatar language of instruction after all these years of ban on our language. My parents took us to cultural events and tried to educate us about the cultural heritage of Crimean Tatar people. However, everything changed in 2014. Putin took advantage of the unstable political situation in Ukraine and conducted a fake referendum in the regional capital, my hometown. And as a result, Crimea was annexed by the Russian Federation. Over these past 8 years in the occupied region, our historical land has been abused, and cultural revival of Crimean Tatars in Ukraine was set back by the Kremlin's regime. Crimea ranked 4th among the world territories with the worst level of freedom of speech. Our representative democratic body was banned by Russia because of its resemblance to a terrorist organization, of course. Russia loves creating those fake narratives to justify their oppression. A lot of schools, Crimean Tatar schools were closed, institutions closed, media was banned. Our community leaders and those who protested the annexation were interrogated and confined as political prisoners. Growing up and bearing witness to those crimes against humanity, I was inspired to raise awareness about the violation of human rights and represent my people's wishes away from homeland, because I couldn't do this in my homeland. So did many activists, like the Beriev's family. I traveled to Kiev to volunteer in the Crimean Tatar Research Center, the one that I mentioned before, and Zarema Berieva was my mentor and inspiration. The organization advocated for the rights, the human rights of the indigenous Crimean Tatar people. It also developed laws and campaigns that supported cultural, educational, and demographic initiatives related to Crimea and the Crimean Tatar people. Also, Zarema herself informed the international community about the situation in the occupied territory and attracted legal, social, and humanitarian assistance to political prisoners and their families. Now I see that Russian imperial lust for power was not satisfied with the annexation of Crimea and also many other ethnic minorities. They want more. They now invade my country, Ukraine, bombarding every single region and murdering civilians, the largest invasion since the World War II. There is no official reports, but according to some sources, 300 civilians were murdered in a single city. Imagine the scale of the whole country. Right now, there are more than 2 million refugees leaving Ukraine, most of whom are women and children, because men are not allowed to leave the country. It seems like there's little we can do as foreigners, and fate of Ukraine and its people depends on one person or a handful of people, but it's not true. Our world is incredibly globalized and interconnected. As activists like Zarema are trying to convey, it's important to take action. I could be now hiding in a cold bomb shelter like my friends, hoping that Russia will miss the target and my home won't be destroyed. But I'm here in a country that didn't see the horrors of a war for decades. And I want to use this privilege to speak up for the oppressed and call for action. I encourage you to do the same. One of the ways you can help is educating yourself about the issue, about Ukrainian culture, donating to meet the humanitarian needs of my people, and join and condemn the Russian aggression. On the table in front of you, there is a little flyer with a QR code that will forward you to a fundraiser that was organized by Slater for Ukraine. It's a great way to get a piece of art and at the same time help my people survive before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you so much, RC, for bringing this important situation. If you guys want to help, you can scan the QR code. We're going to have our last speaker for today. It's Fernando Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fernando Gonzalez. I'm a first year here at Wellesley, and I'm a bit nervous, so please forgive any stuttering. First off, I want to thank everyone that spoke before me and spoke of your inspirational stories. It's an honor to be in a room among so many inspiring women. The second I received the email about the Women in the World nomination, asking students to nominate inspirational women, I thought of my mom. Monica Mayella Gonzalez was born on November 10th, 1974, twice blessed. First, blessed by Santa Monica, patron of Saint of Mothers, who gave her devotion. Secondly, Santo Fernando Mayella, patron saint of children, who gave her wonder. I like to think my grandmother named her, knowing she would take after both saints. She grew up with a strong spirit that granted her accomplished scholarship and ambition, and a heart that loved and loved fiercely. She grew strong with the cross of being the older sister of 5, and being the daughter of my grandmother, an older daughter herself. In her youth, she accomplished many things, from academic awards to being captain of the volleyball team and leading the marching band, which she likes to mention whenever speaking of her own accomplishments. But her greatest talent has always been her artistry. Her hands were always creating. They worked gently against the canvas, and despite their scars, she created with them, not only art, but life. Today, she is the mother of 3 amazing and wonderful daughters, Roberta Mayella, my older sister, who was blessed with our mother's love for art, Fernanda Mayella, me, the middle child, and Rebecca Mayella, my younger sister, who is just as ambitious as our mother, if not more. My mother's spirit remains strong, her heart fierce, and her dreams bright. She is an artist with paints, a mother with love, and my greatest inspiration with words. So thank you, Mom, for giving me the strength, devotion, and wonder I hope to someday inspire just like you. Thank you.
And thank you all again to our amazing student speakers, Marce, Manasvi, Arzi, and Fernanda. So we'd like to invite Pashtana back to the podium. I know we didn't have quite enough time for questions, so certainly if there are more outstanding questions for those in person, we'll have a meet and greet after, where Pashtana will probably be able to answer some of those if time allows. And for anyone whose questions weren't answered, we did collect them, and we're hoping to pass those to Pashtana as well and share the answers with you. So Pashtana, this mic is yours.
All right, so right now we're going to do a small activity, and can we go to the slide? Okay. So if you see the slide, you can see for yourself that we see what kind of different, I'm going to let you guys look at the slide, and you have to see what kind of identities you carry, what do you see as yourself. Apart from that, the pronouns, your name, your class year, where is your home, what is the identity that you're willing to share with us. Apart from that, have you ever experienced or witnessed gender bias? How have you or others break the bias? Women in the world portraits, what is one thing that was new or surprised you? You can discuss it on your own table, discuss it further, and then I'll be asking the question one by one, and some of you brave ones will be answering them.